What is up, guys, and welcome back to a new episode here with some Pot Limit Oma content on my YouTube channel. Jumping straight into the action, playing two tables of Rush and Cash on GG Poker. And on table number 2, the money already goes into the middle. And we're up against 5-4 deuce deuce. That's a very good turn. Turning a nut gutter and the clubs. Let's see if we can hold. Very loose. 3-bet obviously by my opponent. Oh my god, he gets there, guys. He gets there. Right away, we are losing the first pot. It was a raise, 3-bet. I come over the top. This guy calls. And unfortunately, he rivers my hand. But that's what's gonna happen. On the left, 10-10-6-4. I will just go ahead and fold this one. And table number 2 is a little bit interesting. Like, is this hand a 3-bet? Ace, Queen, 5-4. I would definitely 3-bet. And I think this one is still okay. Let's take a second to look into this pre-flop decision. Ace, Queen, 4-3. Double suited small blind versus the cutoff. Now, first things first. From the small blind, we are supposed to 3-bet 6.8% against the cutoff raise. Now, the way I like to understand whether this hand, and more importantly, this hand class is supposed to 3-bet, is by going to the categories and find the pre-flop category that this hand falls into, which is an unpaired double-suited hand. This hand class is 3-betting 17% of the time. Now, if I open this one up further and look at the ace-high unpaired double-suited hands, the frequency increases to 34%. Now we can open this up even further and then see the following, that if we have an unpaired double-suited ace-high connected Broadway hand, we're pretty much 3-betting always. These are the best ones, like ace, king, queen, jack, double-suited, for example. And then if we have a connected non-Broadway hand, we are 3-betting 37% of the time. These are hands like ace, 9, 8, 7 double-suited, for example. So strong connected non-Broadway. Now, ace, queen, 4-3 double suited falls into the third category, disconnected with 2 Broadway cards. So I'm going to open this one up and take a look into this hand class. The combinations that we are supposed to 3-bet, we can see in the right column. A hand like ace, king, 5-4 double is a 3-bet, but also a hand like ace, king, 9-7 double suited is a 3-bet. If we scroll down a bit, ace, queen, 7-6 double suited, ace, queen, 8-6 double suited. So it looks like we are looking for hands with a little bit higher side cards than the 4 and the 3. So I'm going to filter for ace, queen, 4-3 double suited. And there we see that this hand is actually supposed to be a call. Now, if I do take a look into the EV of the 3-bet, the EV of the 3-bet is significantly worse at minus 0.69. In other words, almost 25 big blind per 100 is calling better than 3-betting, so my pre-flop play is a little bit too loose here. Alright, guys, if you like this content, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, give the video a thumbs up, and of course, check out PLOmastermind.com if you want to learn more about the great game of Pot Limit Oma, not only by myself, but also by other PLO professionals, including working with PLO trainer. Link below in the description, guys. Table number 1, flop goes check by 4 players. And on the turn against the bet, this is not that great. We still have a gutter to the straight flush. And we got the 10. So we have some potential to bluff on the river if the river pairs. I think I'm going to call. I'm not super thrilled about it. Might be too loose. And against a river bet, I do have to make the fold. Table number 2. We pretty much miss, but we have 2 backdoor flush draws. We do have the 9. I think I will bet. And then obviously bet fold. Let's open up PLO Trainer one more time and take a look into this flop c-bet decision. I'm using 8-6 deuce rainbow. This is the closest board that we have available in PLO Trainer instead of 8-6-3, but it doesn't matter as much for the overall strategy. Now, the first thing that caught my attention on this flop is that the in-position player is only supposed to bet 41.8%. I think it's very common that people bet this board too often. And the problem is that the out-of-position player can check raise aggressively because he's only playing a 50 big blind strategy. And that is why we have to be somewhat selective with how often we are supposed to bet. One more thing that is worth pointing out is that the big blind on 8-6 deuce rainbow is supposed to lead out 39% of the time. Now this is a very, very high frequency, and I believe no one in reality is actually leading out this often. Now the result of an opponent who is not leading out too often generally is that the in-position player is supposed to bet less frequently in reality because the checking range of the opponent is stronger. Of course, this also depends on his pre-flop defending range and his post-flop check raising frequency, but usually this is how you want to think about it. If I filter down for ace, queen, 9-3, which is the same hand pretty much that I was holding if we compare it to this board, you can see that ace, queen, 9-3 is always supposed to be a bet, whether we have 2 backdoor flush draws, 1 backdoor flush draw, or no backdoor flush draw. C-betting is the right play. Every card in your hand has a function, either it's a positive or a negative function. And the more positives you have, the more likely it is that you want to start betting, either for value or as a bluff. And in this situation, like I didn't have any showdown value, but I did have a nearby blocker. I did have some backup equity. When I check, it's not going to be that great. So I think betting there is definitely reasonable. Table number 1, flopping trips on 9-5-5. We can bet or check. The downside with this hand is that we block kings, queens, and jacks, but we unblock all the straight draws, so I still go ahead and bet this one. Table number 2, we have an easy call against a 3-bet, and on king 5 deuce, unfortunately, we will have to let it go. Table number 1, we do get check raised. I'm going to start with a call. That's a good turn, because we're now beating every other 5x, including ace-x. Table number 2, I'm going to fold actually with a couple of loose players on my left. Here we will just keep calling down on table number 1. The question now is, do we want to shove or not? I do think that if he has 9-9, he will bet bigger. He can still have 9-5, which we're beating. I'm going to raise actually. I'm going to raise. And he does make the fold. Looks like he was just bluffing. Like if he has a 5, he will definitely take more time to make his decision, in my opinion. But also, I'm going to fold on table number 1. If he's bluffing there, like his sizing is not that strong, I think. Like he polarizing a bit more on the river by sizing up, I think makes a bit more sense. At least that's how I would approach the river spot there. Table number 1, 9-9-8-7, definitely is an open usually, but on this table we got a couple of loose players. I think it's close, but I will go for it. I will go for it. And 10-8-7-6. I think on the button it is a reasonable hand to flat. The problem is that we play a game where the rake is pretty high, so you want to be careful. But this hand has like good components, a suit, connectivity. And on this flop I will start with a bet. We got a pair, an open-ender, and a heart. Again, those are positive features in our hand. We're stacking those. We have like multiple features, which makes us want to bet in that situation. 5-5 deuce deuce on the right. This is a little bit too weak of a double paired hand. We're open raising most of our double paired hands, obviously. But the weakest, most disconnected rainbow ones will be a fold, and also the lowest ones. I think like 5-5 deuce deuce is fine to just fold. And start open raising with a hand like, I don't know, like 5-5-4-4, 6-6-5-5. Like that is my threshold there. King, queen, 10, 3, double. Actually not that great against the short stack players. I mean, we are gonna make the call. Hopefully we hit, or we have a strong draw. This is a wrap, 2 backdoor flush draws. We're gonna make the call, and we have 42.26%. That's a pretty good turn. And on table number 1, it is tempting to rip it in. It is tempting to rip it in against the half pot size bet. This guy also is like, he has a high VPIP. I'm actually gonna go for it. I think usually we want to call because we don't have a mate handy yet. But he does seems to play a bit too many hands pre-flop most likely. Plus, his sizing is a little bit weakish to me. So if I raise and take it down, that's a pretty good result, I would say. We do take it down. And on table number 2, ace, jack, 10, 8. This is a pretty good hand to raise, especially if we are up against a couple of tighter players, giving us more fold equity pre-flop, because the hand doesn't play as great in a multi-way pot, right? Like, we don't have a nut suit. We still have a decent amount of gaps there. So against the big blind, it's actually a pretty good result. I'm going to check back and take it from there. This board will favor the big blind. And on the deuce, once my opponent checks again, and I still don't have any showdown value, I'm going to start betting. While on table number 1 with bear, top 2 pair on queen, jack, 7. This is a hand that I could go ahead and check back. I could check this back. My opponent is betting small on the turn. This to me is a bit weak, so we're gonna raise it up. So many draws we can get value against. We can also get called by weaker hands still. If my opponent would pot bet on the turn, I would just call. There are many players who play fairly face up with their sizing, in my experience. If they use a smaller sizing, they usually have a weaker range that they're betting that sizing with, which you can take advantage of in certain scenarios. Ace 9 5 4, this is too weak of a hand. Although we have like a lot of tight players on my left, I was definitely considering it, but it might be a little bit too wide. Ace 10 4 deuce. This is going to be a fold against the short stacks player in particular. And on the left, ace 10 8 7. This is usually an open, but with this player on my left, I don't know. I got timed out, so I don't have to make the decision myself, but I might have ended up folding there anyway. And queen 9 8 6 single on the right side. I would go ahead and raise this one up since the big blind looks a little bit tighter. And on table number 1, I do face a 3-bet, almost a min 3-bet. Now, this is one of those hand classes that could be considered as a 4-bet bluff, but I don't believe that my opponent is ever 3-bet folding. So I'm just going to call and basically take it from there. On this board, I will check my entire range. And we're going to go ahead and check call. We get 2 pair outs. We get the backdoor diamonds. We get backdoor straight opportunities. So we're just going to call, see a turn first before committing more money into the pot. We will check on the jack. It is a bit interesting now. I don't think I can fold actually. I don't think I can fold picking up the diamonds. I also don't think raising makes a lot of sense really. So we're just going to call again. And that's a terrible river, which we will check and then check fold. It is what it is. My opponent will take it down. And on the right side, king, king, queen, jack. On this board, we could bet very often. My hand is one of the hands I like to check back with. Not a lot of benefits in betting, I would say. And against a small bet, I mean, we even have to let this one go, I think. My opponent takes it down. Queen Jack 8-3 on the left. Double suited, this hand would be okay to raise. Maybe it's actually Queen Jack 8-4 I would raise it up with. But this one is definitely too weak of a hand to open raise with. We got a cash drop on the left. Let's see if we have something. An ace queen 9-4. This will be a raise. Ace queen is a high frequency raise. Unfortunately, gonna fold on the left side, even though I can play many hands. Like this is just too weak, basically. And then king 10-6-3. Gonna let that one go. While ace king 7-4 will be a raise. Again, I spoke about this in one of my previous episodes, that ace king on the button. We can simplify that to erase all of those combinations in most lineups. Two overcards. The nut gutter, backdoor spades. I like a check. If I would have the ace of clubs or the king of clubs, I probably bet it. This combination I prefer to actually check back. And on the turn, we don't pick up any equity. Just gonna let that one go. And move on to the next hand. Guys, let me know down below what games are you playing yourself at the moment? How have things been going? And do you like this type of content? Like, I sometimes get the question why I do play Rush and Cash in these videos. And the reason is because I believe that Rush and Cash is just the best format for creating videos. It goes fast, it's entertaining. You don't have to hustle when tables break while recording the video. So for several reasons, I do believe it's the best format. But if I were you, I would probably jump into the regular tables myself. Table number two. I'm gonna bet with my heart. Interesting. My opponent checks back the flop, so he doesn't have two pair on the flop. Now we could backdoor into 10-9. I think I'm gonna check. He can have 10-9. And he can have hearts. Can I make him fold hearts? Probably, but I think just check folding is the play there, unfortunately. Table number one, easy fold again with ace king 9-7. Ace queen 7-3 is interesting. We got two very tight players on my left, so I will go for it. Now this is exploitative and pretty loose. And on 7-6-6, I'm actually gonna start with a bet with my hand. My opponent makes the fold, which is a pretty good result. 9-6-5-4 on the left. Big blind is very tight. Big blind is very tight. Snap folds, so we take it down, which is great. And also on the right, taking it down. So stealing and being sharp on which players are too tight in these games makes up a big part of playing this game, basically. And that's more true even in these fast forward games, but also true, of course, in like regular games, right? Like rag tables. Ace queen 10-9, single, pretty good looking hand, which we're gonna raise up. tag this player as being tight. And we flop a rep with 1 spade. No showdown value. What shall we do? I'm going to check this one back. We do want to make sure that we have some reps in our check back range. And the way I mix that is to usually check back when I don't have a mate hand or a pair blocker to the board, like this one. On the turn, check again. And then on the river, my opponent bets small. Not much we can do. Just gonna let it go. Let's recap this hand for a second. I'm using Jack 8-5 with a suit instead of Jack 8-6. This is the closest board that we have available in PLO Trainer. Now the reason that I want to bring this up, because I did mention in the video that I'm betting a hand like Ace, Queen, 10-9. So the rep, in case I usually have like more additional equity, like a mate hand or a flush draw or a backdoor flush draw. Now, if I actually filter for this hand, Ace, Queen, 10-9, we do see that this hand is a high frequency bet. Even with 1 spade without a flush draw, the hand that I was actually holding, this combination is a very high frequency bet, betting pretty much pure. Now, if you don't have a spade blocker, the betting frequency drops significantly to 30%, and we're only betting if we have a backdoor flush draw. In other words, the spade blocker is also a very powerful asset, which makes us lean more towards betting instead of making it dependent on whether we have a mate hand or a backdoor flush draw in addition to it. So the spade blocker, very important asset on a two-tone board. On the right side, I decided to check back on the turn. Give my opponent room to bluff or catch a flush. On the river, I mean, just gonna have to call. He does have a straight. Interesting. Maybe I should have bet the turn, I'm not sure. 8-6-4-4 on the right side. The problem is that this player is short stacked, which sort of decreases my implied odds. So letting it go, I think, is fine. But against a 100 big blind player, I would definitely make the call there. Queen Jack 6-5 will be an open race on the left side. We flop 2 pair. On a board that is okay for us, but also okay for the button. We're going to start with a check. And on the right side, we will have to let it go. A min bet on the left. Just gonna make the call. Not super thrilled. Queen Jack, let's check. Ah, yes, Jack 4. So we do win. We do win. I don't like his play. Ace 10-9-9, rainbow. Just gonna be a fold. Ace Queen 9-4, close on the left, but we do have a couple of tighter players on the table, so I will start with a bet. And on the right side, I will bet and get it in against the check raise. And on the left, I will fold. My hand is too disconnected against the squeeze. While on the right side, my opponent check raises bottom 2 and an open ender. Pretty standard, and we do lose, unfortunately. But I think that one was standard. 10-10-6-4 on the left is close. I will raise. And luckily my opponents do end up folding. Let this one go. And ace jack jack 5 double is of course an open raise. These fast forward games are a lot about pre-flop. Just gonna play many hands and therefore many pre-flop decisions. Many players overfold pre-flop, so you have opportunities to steal again. On the right side, check, check. How often is this guy 3-betting? He definitely under 3-bets. So I'm gonna raise it up. And on the right, just check it down, unfortunately. And we do lose. Jack 10, 10, 9, single, easy open. Table number 1, I squeeze ace, king, jack, jack, single. The cutoff folds, the button makes a call. This is a pretty good board. Top pair, second nut, flush draw. I'll bet half pot. Could also go 1/3. I think potting is a bit too much on that specific board. Ace 5 deuce will be a raise, even though the button is like somewhat loose. I do like to raise that one up. Ah, this is a misclick on the right. Queen, queen, 8, a rainbow. Probably raise that one usually. 10, 9, 7, 6. I will call or raise this hand, depending on what my opponent is doing. We do take down the pots. Ace 10, 9, 7. On the button will be a raise. Flop middle pair and 1 spade blocker. This is one of those hands I will bet fold with. Is queen 9, 7 on the right side a bit close? Bit close. And as mentioned, if we get check raised, folding is the play. But I think the blockers are just good enough to go for it. Ace queen 9, 7. Against a 3-bet. I'm gonna fold. Picking up ace, ace, king 7. Obviously coming in for the raise. King jack 10 deuce on the right side will be a fold. I would call this one if I'm double suited or single suited to the king. I think a good practice, guys, is in scenarios like this is to ask yourself like what is the threshold to continue there? To always stay active and try to keep improving. King 10 9 6. I'm gonna raise this one because I have like a lot of tight players on my left. 10 9 7 7 will be a fold. But yeah, trying to keep practicing even while you're in game. I think it's not that bad. And if you have like a real open question there, then you can always note it down, and then after the session, look back into it and find the answer there, basically. Pocket aces again on the left side. Let's do it. Let's do it. We'll 3-bet, obviously. King 5-3. I'm gonna bet half pot on this board. And against a race, I mean, he definitely will have some king king and king 3, king 5, but we will have to go with it. And he has 4-3 deuce deuce. What a hand. Not gonna run it twice. Not gonna run it twice. Let's just hold. Let's just hold, guys. There we go. 4-3 deuce deuce. Open raising from under the gun and then calling against the 3-bet. That is worth a note. Fold, and this is a call on the right side. Queen 8-7, a bit too weak. On the right side, we have a check. Very bad turn. Check again. This is a turn my opponent will take a lot of stabs with. On for sure. He is loose. I mean, it is very tempting. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna try to stay in line. King, queen, jack 4. This is an open raise, double suited, single suited. We're just gonna fold in middle position. That's a pretty good looking hand. Ace, queen, jack 10. We got this player again who did open raise 4-3 deuce deuce before. Unfortunately, a very bad flop for my range and my hand. There they go. Yeah, this was like I like to check raise. I like to check raise against him. Ace queen 10-5. Triple. Gonna fold against an RFI. And then we're open raising ace queen queen 9 single on the left. Taking that one down. King queen 10-10 double. This will be a 3-bet against a button raise. Let's see what's gonna happen. This guy plays 25 VPIP. And on this board, it is close. It is close. I will have some checks on this board for sure. This hand can check call. If we better get called, it gets a little bit tricky and thin on the turn. I'm just gonna check. Basically, take it from there. That is a beautiful turn. The thing is that we... The thing is that we do block the king as well. I'm gonna go for a bet. Hoping that he has like a flush, like a lower flush, basically. He probably will not have a 2-pair hand at this point, because he did check the flop. I'm not sure if he bluffs frequently enough if I check. I'll just bet myself. And then ace, king, 10 deuce. I'm gonna flat this one. That's a pretty good flop. A pretty good flop. My opponent snap, check folds. And that is that one. Guys, I'm gonna wrap up this session. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, please leave a comment below. Check out PLOmastermind.com and also give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. And that is gonna be it for today, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.